Monday mornings aren't supposed to break you. I've had plenty of rough ones. Project deadlines, busted pipelines, even the time my car wouldn't start and I had to sprint a half-mile to catch a train with a laptop bouncing against my ribs. But this one was different. It didn't crash into my life like a wrecking ball. It was subtle, quiet, a 10-second story on a screen that rewired the way I saw my entire marriage. I'm Evan Cooper. I'm a mechanical engineer in Denver, nothing flashy, just a regular guy. I married Leslie 6 years ago. She's in marketing at a clean energy firm, the kind that throws around phrases like innovation pipeline and sustainable synergy like they're going out of style. She's smart, driven, the kind of woman who could fill a room just by walking into it. I've always admired that about her, even if sometimes it left me feeling like the background character in my own life. Anyway, that morning started like any other. I was up around 6:30, made my usual strong as a brick cup of black coffee, and sat on the patio to enjoy a little quiet before the day started. Leslie was out of town, had left Sunday morning for a strategic retreat up by Lake Arrowhead, some kind of bonding thing with her team. She'd mentioned it a week earlier, casually over dinner, like it was just another notch on her packed schedule. Jason will be there too, I think, she said, eyes on her phone. The guy I told you about, the one who keeps showing up late to Zooms. I remembered the name vaguely. Jason, tall, slick haircut, always had some new business buzzword in his mouth. Leslie had only mentioned him twice in 6 months, always with a dismissive tone like he was more annoying than anything. Jason from accounts, she'd call him. He's barely an acquaintance, she told me once when I asked if they ever worked closely. That phrase stuck in my head for some reason. So there I was that Monday, scrolling through my phone while the sun pushed through the clouds, steam rising off my mug. That's when I saw it. A story from Clara. Now, Clara isn't even someone I follow directly. She's the younger sister of Rachel, who works with Leslie. Clara's one of those hyperactive Instagram types, always documenting her life like she's the star of a Netflix docuseries nobody asked for. Brunches, shopping hauls, endless videos of her dog sneezing in slow-mo. I almost swiped past it without a second glance. Almost. But then I caught something familiar in the thumbnail. A lake. A specific lakeside terrace I'd seen in brochures on the kitchen counter the week before. And in the corner, just before the story autoplayed, was that Leslie? I tapped it. 10 seconds. That's all it was. The video started with a sweeping view of the lake, calm and glinting in the morning light. Then it panned to a long outdoor table. A few people were seated, but the camera paused just briefly on 2 people. Leslie and Jason, sitting side by side at the edge of the table, angled toward each other like the rest of the world didn't exist. She was laughing at something he said, her hand resting on the table near his. He reached for a fork, offered her a bite of something off his plate. She leaned in, smiling. Their fingers touched briefly. She didn't pull away. I watched it again, and again, 3 times in a row. The other people in the sh*t didn't matter. The clinking plates, the background chatter, the caption Clara wrote, #teambuilding vibes. None of it registered. All I could see were those 2. And the way Leslie looked at him. It wasn't work friend banter. It wasn't barely an acquaintance. It wasn't nothing. I sat there in silence, phone still in hand, the last frame of the story frozen on the screen. My coffee had gone cold. My heart hadn't. I don't know how long I sat out there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe 30. My brain kept trying to rationalize what I saw. It's just a work retreat. People get close in those environments. Maybe it was an innocent moment, just caught out of context. But no matter how I tried to spin it, something in my gut had already made up its mind. Leslie came back Tuesday evening. I heard her keys in the lock around 8:15. She walked in carrying her usual oversized weekender bag and wearing that exhausted but satisfied look she always had after conferences. Her hair was tied back, but she looked put together. She smiled when she saw me in the kitchen. "Hey," she said, walking over and giving me a kiss on the cheek. "Missed you. You have fun?" I asked, keeping my tone even. She shrugged. "It was fine. Long days, lots of talking. I'm glad to be home." There was a pause. Not a long one. Just enough. I reached for a glass and said casually, Clara posted a story from the retreat. That got her attention. She tilted her head. Clara? Rachel's sister. Yeah, I said, setting the glass down. It showed up on my feed. You and Jason looked close. Her eyes flicked away, just for a second. Then she scoffed. Oh, come on. That? It was breakfast. Everyone was sitting together. You know how those team retreats are. Didn't look like a group thing. Evan, she said sharply, crossing her arms. Seriously? You're getting worked up over a 10-second Instagram story? That's ridiculous. I'm just asking, I replied. You said he was barely an acquaintance. And he was. But we've worked together more lately. That's how these retreats are supposed to work. We bond, we network, we become more productive. You want me to sit by myself the whole time to avoid making you uncomfortable? Her voice was climbing now, rising defensively. I'm not accusing you of anything, I said. But it didn't look like just co-workers. Oh my God, she muttered, throwing her bag down harder than necessary. You know what? I work my ass off, I go on one trip and suddenly you're Inspector Gadget over a stupid video? Maybe ask yourself why you're so quick to assume the worst. And just like that, it was turned around on me. She went upstairs without waiting for a response. I stayed in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, trying to catch up to the emotional whiplash. It wasn't the denial that got to me. It was how easily she dismissed what I saw, how quickly she shifted the spotlight off the question and onto me like I was the one who crossed a line. I didn't bring it up again. Not that night. Not the next day. But something cracked open inside me, something I couldn't unsee. A story disappears after 24 hours. But some things, they linger. After that story, after seeing Leslie and Jason at the lakeside table like they were sharing more than breakfast, something inside me wouldn't settle. I wanted to let it go. God, I tried. I told myself it was one moment caught on camera at a weird angle. I tried to believe her when she told me I was being dramatic. But the truth is, I didn't see drama. I saw something real, something raw and familiar and far too in asterisk made for two people who were supposed to be barely on speaking terms. So I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just watched. The thing is, once you see the first crack, you start noticing all the places the paint's peeling. In the days after she got back from the retreat, Leslie acted normal, maybe a little too normal. She was unusually chipper, bouncing around the kitchen, humming while she made coffee, texting constantly and smiling like some inside joke was living on her phone. She made jokes I didn't understand. She laughed harder at messages than she did at my best attempts at humor. And when I asked her what was so funny, she'd say, oh, just something dumb from work, or it's not even worth explaining, babe. That babe had started to sound mechanical. Over time, more memories started clawing their way back to the surface, moments I'd brushed aside when they first happened. In early spring, maybe 3 months before the retreat, Leslie came home with a dramatic new haircut. Shorter, sharper, more styled. Just needed a change, she'd said, shrugging it off, even though she'd always said she hated high-maintenance looks. Not long after that, the gym obsession kicked in. At first, I was proud of her, she was getting stronger, more energetic. But soon it wasn't just about feeling good. It was about visible results. Tighter clothes. Shorter skirts. New lingerie tags left in the trash that I never got to see in use. I asked her if she wanted to do a couple's membership. She laughed. Evan, you hate spin classes. You'd last 10 minutes. Then there was the perfume. It wasn't hers. Not the kind she wore for me anyway. This was something new. Heavier. More attention-seeking. I noticed it one night when she came home late from an off-site brainstorm that had supposedly run long. She said they stayed to clean up. Her hair looked too neat for cleanup duty. Her heels were scuffed in that way that doesn't happen from standing still. And that scent? It wasn't the bottle she kept on her dresser. It wasn't even close. But I didn't say anything. I told myself, again, that I was imagining it. I blamed work stress. Deadlines. Burnout. Maybe I was becoming paranoid. Maybe I just wasn't giving her the benefit of the doubt. That's what we're supposed to do in marriages, right? I started noticing how often she was staying late. It went from once a week to 3 times. Then 4. There was always a reason. Presentation prep. New client onboarding. Internal training for the sales team. She'd walk through the door around 9 or 10, eyes tired but still glued to her phone. She'd shower without saying much and slip into bed facing the wall. When I tried to talk, she'd say she was exhausted. When I reached for her, she'd shift away, mumbling something about an early morning. We weren't fighting. We weren't even talking enough to fight. And that somehow made it worse. I tried to make plans. Date night. Just us. a drive up to Estes Park, or even just a Friday night dinner downtown like we used to do. But something always came up. I already told Jen I'd cover for her. I have a migraine. Can we just chill at home? I'm not in the mood to go out. I started to feel like a guest in my own marriage. One night, around midnight, I woke up to find Leslie wasn't in bed. I walked into the hallway and saw the faint glow of her phone illuminating her face from the living room. She was curled up on the couch, eyes locked onto the screen, thumbs flying. I stepped forward. She jumped. "Jesus, Evan," she gasped. "You scared me." "Sorry. Couldn't sleep." "What are you doing out here?" She slid her phone under a blanket. "Just couldn't sleep either. Didn't want to wake you." Her voice was tight, guarded. "Who were you texting?" "No one. Just reading stuff." "Leslie, come on." She looked me dead in the eye. "Do you not trust me?" That question, it felt loaded, like a trap. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I didn't know what to believe anymore. My instincts were screaming, but my brain kept pumping the brakes. I shook my head, more to stop myself from answering than to respond to her. She got up and walked past me without another word. The next morning, everything was back to normal. Pancakes on the counter, her usual smile, her gym bag by the door. But her phone stayed face down the entire time. She had a new habit of leaving the room to take calls. "Sorry, it's work stuff," she'd say, already out of **T. At that point, I started paying attention to the details I used to ignore. Her screen brightness? Always dimmed. Notifications? Turned off. She added a second passcode layer to her lock screen. For security, she claimed, after some vague mention of an office data leak. One evening, I caught a glance at her home screen. Jason's name lit up in a banner across the top before she swiped it away so fast you'd think it burned her fingers. I froze. She pretended not to notice. That night, I didn't sleep again. I started keeping mental tabs, timestamps, location she said she'd be at, random things she said in passing. Like how she once claimed she was heading to a late meeting near Rhino, but when I checked her location history on our shared calendar, a system we both set up years ago, it pinged in Boulder, an hour away. At the time, I told myself she got the location wrong. Now, I wasn't so sure. I wanted to talk to someone, but I didn't want to come off like some paranoid husband reading too much into gym bags and eye contact. So I stayed quiet. I told myself I was overreacting, that if I just waited, things would go back to how they were. But they didn't. One night, I caught myself scrolling Reddit at 2 a.m., reading post after post from men who had that same slow, gnawing gut feeling, the same patterns. Changes in routine, cold behavior, the locked phones, the secret smiles. And in the comments, more stories. Stories that mirrored mine too closely to ignore. I wasn't crazy. Or maybe I was. But if I was, I wasn't the only one. One day, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone off the nightstand. I didn't open it. I just stared at the screen, blank and black, daring me to try. But I didn't. Not then. Instead, I waited. I watched. I made mental notes. And I told myself I wasn't going to confront her until I had something real. Something undeniable. Because even though the doubt was eating me alive, a small part of me still hoped I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong more than anything. Because if I wasn't, if what I feared was true, then the life I'd built with Leslie wasn't just strained. It was already broken. I remember the exact moment I crossed the line, the one between suspicion and certainty. It was a Wednesday, overcast, the kind of gray morning that never fully wakes up. Leslie had left early for a client walkthrough, some on-site branding review with the creative team. She was gone before I got out of bed, her side of the mattress already cold. I sat there for a while, staring at the ceiling, wondering when our mornings had stopped including each other. Then I rolled over and noticed she'd left her work laptop plugged in on the desk. That wasn't unusual. Leslie rarely used it at home unless she was on a Zoom. But it was open, and the screen wasn't locked. That was unusual. I didn't go snooping, not right away. I stared at it for at least 5 minutes, debating with myself, chewing on guilt. But in the end, suspicion doesn't ask for permission. It just grows until it needs answers more than it needs peace. And I found them. Not right there on her desktop. But the key was in the cloud. See, we had a shared tablet we barely used anymore, originally set up for travel and movies on flights. It was still linked to our Apple account, and by some miracle or mistake, her iMessage app was syncing in real time. I didn't even mean to check it that morning. I picked it up looking for old tax docs. But there it was. A flood of new messages, dozens of them, all tucked under one name. Jason. The man she said was barely an acquaintance. The man in the lakeside breakfast story. The man I had been trying so hard not to think about. The conversation read like a movie script. No caution. No subtlety. Just pages and pages of raw, unfiltered and asterisk Macy. There were jokes I didn't understand, inside jokes, obviously, because they were built from moments I wasn't invited into. There were memes, flirtations, pet names, nicknames. She called him Jay. He called her Ellie. I didn't even know she liked being called Ellie. There were late-night messages that started with, "I can't stop thinking about last weekend," and ended with, "I wish I was falling asleep next to you right now." There were photos. Some of her in outfits I'd never seen her wear. Others less clothed. Him too. I won't describe them. I can't. They're burned into my memory, whether I want them or not. But it wasn't just the physical betrayal that hit me. It was the planning. The conversations weren't about what if. They were about when. Weekend trips. Secret cabin rentals. Hotel receipts that matched the nights she told me she was stuck in traffic. Discussions about what it would look like if she finally had the courage to leave Evan. My name. In their messages. Like I was the problem. Like I was a roadblock to their happiness. She said I was comfortable, predictable, and safe. That I wouldn't make a scene because I was too rational. She said she didn't want to hurt me, but she also didn't want to live in a lukewarm life. Lukewarm. That word stung more than any picture could. I sat on the couch for a long time, tablet in hand, heart in pieces. It wasn't just confirmation, it was revelation. This wasn't just a fling. It wasn't some emotionally confused accident. It was methodical, repeated, deliberate. She had built an entirely separate relationship. One that had roots, rituals, momentum. One that had existed parallel to our marriage like a shadow trailing behind her. I just hadn't turned around soon enough to see it. There were references to weekends at a cabin in Breckenridge. A place she claimed was for team building. They had gone there together in the fall back when I thought she was on a leadership seminar. The same weekend she sent me pictures of foggy trail hikes, telling me she missed me. She hadn't. They had talked about where they'd live, hypothetically, if she ever got serious about starting over. She said Denver felt too heavy with history. She suggested Santa Fe, somewhere sunny and quiet and ours. I felt sick. I took **TS of everything. Dozens, then hundreds. I forwarded them to myself, created backups, saved the images in triplicate on separate drives. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet, but I knew I needed them. Proof. Not just for lawyers or for confrontation, but because I knew there would come a time when I'd start gaslighting myself again. Wondering if I overreacted. Wondering if I misread things. This was insurance. A record of reality. That evening, Leslie came home like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek, asked how my day was, set down her bag, poured herself a glass of wine, and curled up on the couch, phone in hand, smiling at the screen. I knew what she was looking at. I knew who she was talking to. And I sat there, across from her, watching the woman I thought I married talk to a man she planned to replace me with. And she had no idea I knew. That night, I lay in bed beside her, eyes open while she drifted off. I stared at the ceiling and listened to her breathing, trying to remember when exactly it had all **N. I traced it back 6 months. That's what the earliest message said. 6 months of duplicity. Half a year of lying to my face every morning, every night. Every time she said, "I love you," I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her awake and ask her who the hell she had become. But I didn't. I waited, because the moment I confronted her, I knew the game would change. She would shift into defense mode. She'd twist the story. say it was emotional only, that it had ended, that she was confused, that she had been planning to come clean. She would cry. She would we *p*ni's regret. And a small part of me, maybe the old version of me, would probably believe her. But not this time. So I stayed quiet, cold, still. In the days that followed, I began acting like nothing had changed. I went to work, came home, ate dinner with her, nodded through conversations about her day. I even made jokes. She laughed, said it was good to see me lightening up again. That one almost made me choke. I started tracking her activity. I used location logs tied to our Google account. She never revoked those permissions. I started syncing her calendar to mine. I paid attention to charge statements, Uber logs, timestamps. I built a timeline, a literal map of betrayal. One night, she came home late again, said she'd grab drinks with Rachel and the team after a client milestone. I smiled, said I hoped they had fun. She didn't know I'd already seen the receipt from a hotel 30 minutes outside the city. A boutique place with luxury suites and mirrored ceilings. Paid for by Jason's business card. She showered longer than usual that night. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, hands clenched around a glass of water. I didn't move until I heard her footsteps on the stairs. I thought about confronting her then. But I didn't. I wasn't going to let emotion lead anymore. I wasn't going to hand her the advantage of surprise. This wasn't about heartbreak now. This was about control. And I was done pretending not to see what was right in front of me. The night I decided to stop loving Leslie was quiet. No outbursts. No grand gestures. Just a low hum of finality in my chest, like a switch had flipped and everything warm inside me cooled into steel. I remember sitting alone in the garage, door halfway open, a single bulb swinging above the workbench. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Again, I didn't even check where she was anymore. I already knew. The only thing left to do was stop being the fool she counted on me to be. I'd spent weeks watching her double life play out in real time, every message, every reservation, every secret rideshare ping. The evidence I gathered didn't just confirm my fears, it exceeded them. They were bold. Too bold. Maybe they thought I was too soft, too slow, too safe to act. That's what she called me in her texts to Jason, safe. Like that was a flaw. Fine. I'd show her exactly how dangerous safe could become. The next morning, I took a personal day from work. Told my team I needed to handle a family situation. I didn't tell them it involved preparing for a divorce from the woman I thought I'd grow old with. I just put on a clean shirt, brewed a pot of coffee I didn't finish, and made the first call. The lawyer came highly recommended, a woman named Dana Albright. Tough. Efficient. Known for her surgical approach to high-stakes separation. I met her in a discreet office suite across from a park where couples walked dogs and children played on jungle gyms. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Dana didn't waste time with pleasantries. She asked for facts, not feelings. I gave them to her in organized folders, digital backups, timestamps, *TS, transaction records, even audio logs from a smart home device Leslie forgot was still synced. She reviewed them without flinching. This isn't just infidelity, she said, flipping through a printed message thread. This is premeditated fraud against the marital estate. I blinked. Fraud. She nodded. If she's used shared funds, credit, assets, travel reimbursements on another relationship, and if we can prove intent to deceive, it strengthens your case significantly. Especially if she's positioning herself for financial leverage. It felt like I was sitting in a courtroom already. Dana laid out a strategy. No confrontation. No emotion. Just data. Documentation. Structure. If you want to win, she said, you don't scream. You build a wall. And so I did. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone else, colder, sharper, more focused than I'd ever been. While Leslie went about her charade, gym runs, client meetings, late-night texts, I was dismantling our life together behind the curtain. First came the finances. We had a joint checking account, 2 savings accounts, and partial equity in the family business I started before we married, Cooper & Sons Engineering, inherited from my dad and run mostly by me. Leslie wasn't involved day-to-day, but she was listed as a passive co-founder for tax and succession purposes. That changed. I met with my accountant, updated our corporate structure, and filed paperwork to dissolve her title and revoke her profit share access. Legally sound thanks to a clause in our prenup, one she had once insisted was just a formality. I also opened a new account in my name only, moved my salary over, and halted all automatic transfers she didn't know I controlled. Next came the home. The house was mine before we married. Paid off in full, deeded under my name. But over the years, we'd done renovations together, some of them under her project proposals. She might try to argue contribution. So I documented everything, receipts, contracts, before and after photos, emails with the contractors. All tied to my bank. Then I reviewed the power of attorney documents I had granted her 3 years ago, back when I thought giving her control over my medical decisions was romantic. Revoked. Signed, sealed, and notarized. I even updated the beneficiary list on my life insurance policy. She wasn't on it anymore. I left just enough in our joint account to avoid raising suspicion. I scheduled automatic bill payments so nothing would look off until the moment I filed. Meanwhile, I tracked every location she visited, every Uber she took, every hotel stay she thought was invisible. She didn't know I knew. And the more I learned, the more detached I became. I stopped trying to make her dinner. I stopped asking about her day. When she left the room to answer texts, I didn't follow. When she came home late and offered some paper-thin excuse about client drinks or strategy dinners, I just nodded. She probably thought I'd finally accepted it, her new life, her emotional withdrawal, her cold affection. But I hadn't accepted it. I was just making sure my case would be bulletproof. 2 weeks after my first meeting with Dana, I had everything in place. Paperwork ready. Affidavits notarized. Digital folders labeled by date and incident. Even the subpoena templates were pre-drafted in case Leslie contested anything. The next step was filing. Dana submitted the petition for divorce first thing Monday morning. No warning. No discussion. Just a process server arriving at Leslie's office midday with a manila envelope. That's when the mask cracked. She came home that night in a storm of confusion and fury. Slammed the door. Demanded to know what the hell was going on. You blindsided me, Evan, she screamed. You couldn't even talk to me first? I was calm. Collected. Cold. Did you talk to me when you were booking hotel rooms with Jason? I asked, voice flat. She froze. Her eyes darted. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. You're twisting things. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. You made a plan. I just made a better one. That's when she tried the next angle. Tears. Shaking hands. Whispered apologies. She reached for me like she just remembered who I was. The man who brought her coffee in the mornings. Who fixed her car when it rattled. Who held her hand during her dad's funeral. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. You just didn't want to get caught, I replied. Then came the retaliation. Overnight, she flipped her script. Claimed I was cold. Controlling. Distant. That I worked too much, ignored her needs, shut her out emotionally. She began telling friends I'd been unfaithful first, that I was only filing to cover up my own guilt. She even posted cryptic Instagram stories, black screens with vague captions like, sometimes people aren't who you think they are, and learning to put myself first. She filed a response through her attorney within the week, denying infidelity, requesting alimony, and demanding a 50-50 split of assets. She didn't know how prepared I was. Dana's office responded with a data dump. A thumb drive hand-delivered to her lawyer with hundreds of files. Timestamps. Text threads. GPS logs. Hotel receipts. Screen recordings. Photos. Her lawyer reportedly went pale halfway through reviewing them. The tone changed after that. Suddenly, Leslie was open to mediation. She didn't want to fight anymore. She just wanted peace. She started sending long, rambling emails late at night about how we got here, full of pseudo-philosophical reflections and half-apologies wrapped in self-help quotes. I didn't respond. We were past talking. Past healing. We were negotiating terms. And I wasn't going to let her rewrite the ending. The day we stepped into the courtroom, I felt nothing. No anger. No grief. No butterflies in my stomach. Just a strange, weightless clarity, like I had already survived the worst storm of my life and now I was just here to document the damage. The walls were sterile. The light was too bright. Everything smelled faintly of old carpet and recycled air. Leslie sat across the aisle in a powder blue blazer she'd never worn around me. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, her makeup subtle, professional. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Just diminished. She wouldn't look at me. Not once. Her attorney, a guy named Ron Kinley, was a silver-haired, overly confident type, the kind who smiled even when he was losing. I'd done my homework. He was known for aggressive openings and emotional appeals. It didn't matter. We weren't here to play emotion. We were here to present facts. Dana sat beside me, her tablet balanced on her knee, file folders arranged with surgical precision. He's going to try to frame you as cold and distant, she said before the session started. Don't flinch. We have more evidence than they can counter. Just hold your ground. I nodded, feeling more like her client than a man going through the dissection of his marriage. And then it began. Right out the gate, Leslie's side pushed hard. Ron painted a picture of a fractured marriage, how Leslie had struggled in silence for years. He described me as emotionally unavailable, career-obsessed, lacking empathy. He said I-nized silence and used money as control. Leslie even filed a statement claiming that I had made her feel unseen and unsafe. It was surreal hearing it out loud. I remember sitting there thinking, this is what she came up with. This is how she's going to explain 6 months of lying and hotel visits and shared lingerie with another man. Dana didn't blink. When it was our turn, she started slow. Precise. Surgical. She presented the timeline, the synced message logs, the travel receipts, the photos and call logs. She broke it into chapters, the messages, the rendezvous, the financial misuse, the false narrative. She treated it like a forensic autopsy of a dead relationship. The judge, a measured, no-nonsense woman named Judge Ibarra, asked only 2 questions after our first presentation. Both were clarifying dates. No emotion. No raised eyebrows. Just confirmation. We brought in our own character witnesses. My accountant testified to the financial shifts. A digital forensics expert confirmed that none of the message threads or *TS had been edited. Dana even subpoenaed Jason, though he dodged the first request. He was legally compelled to appear by the second. That was the moment Leslie started to unravel. When Jason walked into the courtroom, he looked like someone who had realized too late that he was part of a story he didn't want to be in. He tried to dress the part, clean shave, navy suit, even a wedding band removed, but he couldn't fake composure. The man was sweating through his shirt before he was sworn in. Dana asked one question, can you confirm whether or not you were in a romantic and physical relationship with Mrs. Leslie Cooper during the time of her marriage to Mr. Evan Cooper? He tried to dodge. Stammered something about complex emotions and a moment of weakness. Dana handed the judge a printed message Jason had sent Leslie 3 months ago, pulled from the synced archive. If he ever finds out, we're done. Let's just keep playing it cool until you get out clean. That was it. The air went out of the room. Jason confirmed the affair. Under oath. When court resumed the following day, Leslie's legal team was noticeably deflated. Her lawyer pushed for settlement behind closed doors. Dana related to me during a break in the hallway. She's asking for 30% of shared assets, including the secondary car and the mountain timeshare. No spousal support? I nodded. What about the business stake? Gone. Waived. We've got the prenup and she's not challenging it anymore. And her name on the house? Also waived. She knows she can't win it. The judge is already leaning in our direction. I leaned back against the hallway wall, trying to remember how it had come to this. Just a year earlier, we'd hosted Thanksgiving together. She made rosemary mashed potatoes from scratch. My cousin had complimented our unshakable dynamic. We laughed about that later. Unshakable. Funny how quickly things come loose when they were only held together by make-believe. The last day of court was the shortest. We finalized the division of property. Leslie kept her car, her savings account, and a few pieces of jewelry that had sentimental value, wedding gifts from her late grandmother mostly. I got the house, the business, and every penny I'd fought to protect. The judge ordered Leslie to contribute to half of court fees, including legal discovery costs. No one smiled when it ended. No one clapped or sighed in relief. It was just a quiet thud of a gavel and then it was over. We walked out of the courthouse on opposite sides of the stairs. I didn't look back. I couldn't. There was nothing to say. What words could possibly sum up 6 years of marriage ending in courtroom silence? Later that week, I got a message from Rachel, Leslie's coworker, Clara's sister. It was simple. Just a text. Hey, I'm sorry. We all knew something was off. None of us said anything. I wish I had. I stared at the screen for a long time. Thought about replying. Thought about asking her how long all of them had known. Did they watch Leslie and Jason flirting at office parties? Did they cover for her when she disappeared from work in the middle of the day? In the end, I didn't respond. What would be the point? A few days after that, Leslie tried to call me. I let it ring. Then she sent an email. It was long, rambling, apologetic, but not in a way that acknowledged what she'd really done. She wrote about who she used to be and what she thought love was supposed to feel like. She said she regretted the way things happened and that she still believed we were good people who tried our best. I didn't reply to that either. I archived it, buried it beneath spam and bank statements. What else was there to say? The worst part of betrayal isn't the act itself, it's how easily it turns everything that once felt sacred into a script. A performance. A lie you helped rehearse. I didn't just lose a partner. I lost the history I thought we shared. Every I love you, every movie night, every hand squeeze in the middle of a grocery store, all of it retroactively infected by the knowledge that while I was present, she was already absent. But I didn't carry that weight forever. In the weeks after court, I went through what I can only describe as emotional inventory. I stopped drinking coffee in the kitchen, too many memories. I moved into the guest room for a while, then repainted the master bedroom from slate gray to white. Clean. New. Untouched. I threw out the last blanket she'd bought. Donated the wine glasses she insisted we use only on anniversaries. I took her out of the house, one drawer at a time. I deleted the cloud backups too. All the *TS, the photos, the call logs. I had held onto them like we *P*NS, but the war was over. I didn't need proof anymore. I had closure. I didn't hear from Leslie again after that last email. Not directly, anyway. I got whispers from mutual friends. She moved into a small condo closer to the city. She and Jason didn't last. Apparently things fizzled once their relationship stopped being secret. She switched jobs a few months later. Clara unfollowed her on Instagram. I only noticed because my feed got quieter. And me? I didn't collapse. I didn't fall into bitterness or spiral into anger. I just rebuilt brick by brick. Because the best revenge isn't anger. It's peace.